Vermund. Nestled amongst rugged valleys and powerful rivers, this mountain kingdom is brimming with life, and very little of it is human. While the capital sits on an island at the base of the kingdom, with its inhabitants protected by large walls and the comforts of tavern life, the same can't be said for the land beyond. One doesn't need to venture far from the city's gates before quickly coming to a conclusion. Vermund is nature's battlefield. Due to the dangers faced when filming in such a harsh ecosystem, we've been joined by a local guide, David. David will use his bestiary knowledge and stealthy ways to get us close to the wildlife for observation, and he can also handle things if detected. So join us as we set forth in this beautifully chaotic land, from its shores to the mountains, as we seek out the thriving inhabitants that call it home. While some explorers are a little underwhelmed by the lack of biodiversity in Vermund, especially considering the $70 border entry fee, the few species that do exist are high in numbers and constantly fighting for dominance. Be it goblins, wolves, harpies, goblins, saurians, or sometimes goblins. It often feels like every 30 feet of road brings new creatures that are fully willing to declare war on anything that comes close. This density makes travelling rather difficult for the kingdom's people, with an estimated 92% of ox cart journeys failing to reach their destination. The local Vermundian Guard do little to help the situation by protecting the roads, because why bother when the Arisen and their merry band of loyal gubbers will do all the work for free. And even if the roads are cleared of danger, these beasts are so numerous it means that within just a few days, the exact same creatures will be back, standing around in the exact same spots for some reason. It's quite odd, but maybe the Vermundian wildlife simply enjoy the feeling of familiarity. Of all the Vermundian critters, the most iconic and numerous is a fellow two-legged Denzian, the Goblin. Born from tree roots involving little-known dark rituals deep underground, goblins have spread and now inhabit every corner of Vermund. In fact, the Palace of Vernworth records suggest that for every human in Vermund, there's an estimated 650 goblins. Luckily for the kingdom, goblins live in small tribes and show little desire to unite against the capital, where Vernworth very well could have a new goblin king by the end of the day. Despite their primitive appearance, goblins have developed a rich, burgeoning culture and can be observed enjoying hobbies such as dancing, comedy, making music, questioning human intelligence, playing catch, and starting bonfires. Just like humans, goblins come in all shapes and sizes. There's the standard edition goblin, green goblins, big goblins, and goblins who don't care for noise curfews. No matter the form, they all have one thing in common: warfare. To provoke a goblin into a fight, all you have to do is have the audacity to exist. And it doesn't matter what's doing the existing, goblins will fight quite literally anything, including each other. The goblins' crude fighting techniques of swinging wildly and throwing themselves around with no regard often leads to friendly fire and rising tempers. Although sometimes there just needs to be a few good whacks to the face to settle the matter, and then all's well in Goblin Town. One of the goblin's mortal enemies in Vermund is another aggressively territorial creature, the Saurians. Commonly found anywhere with water, If you're lucky, they'll be partaking in their favourite pastime when you cross paths: napping. If not, then you best be ready, because saurians are deceptively agile warriors for their size, and have even developed the use of weaponry. Aggressively thrusting and capable of leaping with great range, these reptilian Spartans have mastered the way of the spear. Others have developed in different ways, like the more mountainous rattlers with their near impenetrable scales. A little known fact: bowling was actually invented right here in Vermund, with humans used as pins. Luckily for David, in this particular encounter, the rattler took a keen interest in him, seemingly smitten. But then, we've all been charmed by David's words at some point. Not all of Vermund's aggressors are bound to land, something that unprepared travellers can come to learn. Fatally. These avian terrors known as harpies can be found in a few forms, but none command campfire tales like the human mimicking variant. For jolly inebriated men stumbling home from the tavern, sometimes the last thing they ever see is a feminine outline ahead of them, and the last thing they ever hear is an alluring call to come closer. While harpies are numerous and dangerous in their own right, they're not the dominant force of Vermund's skies. That lordship goes to something bigger. While filming harpies on an oft-travelled road, we were blessed with an immense spectacle by pure happenstance: a griffin. Diving from the heavens to prey upon an ox, few have ever seen this apex predator on the hunt and survived to tell the tale. These magnificent beasts are few in numbers, with each patrolling huge swathes of territory that they claim as their own personal hunting grounds. Surprisingly, griffins are also known for having a great entrepreneurial spirit, starting Vermund's first and only international airline service. Back on land, another common predator is one that frequently clashes with goblins and angry farmers: wolves. Seeing one of these canines is never a good sign, because just as in other parts of the world, here in Vermund, wolves hunt in packs. Be it a rabbit or unlucky traveller, these hunters will quickly surround their prey to disorientate them, and then one will make their move, dragging their victim away across the ground so the whole pack can go for the kill. While gathering woodland footage, we saw firsthand how the wolves' keen sense of smell alerted them to David's presence, forcing him to quickly evade as the pack honed in on his scent. That was much too close for comfort. In other situations, if one is prepared, conflict with wolves can be entirely avoided. This is because, just like with me, a wolf's friendship can be bought with food. While many of Vermund's land-dwelling beasts can be found in groups, some are simply too territorial to play nice with others. Vermund's king of the lunar life also happens to be one of its most dangerous: the ogre. Towering, agile, and incredibly strong, ogres are the ultimate warriors. While filming in the Northern Valley, David pushed his luck just a little too far. Now in a life-threatening situation for most, David manages to get back on his feet and uses this encounter to capture the ogre's battle techniques. If consistently leaps to the cliffs and lunges at David like an overgrown luchador. Or attempts to dropkick him into the next cycle. David is a trained professional, so toying with an ogre like this is definitely not something to try at home. And in the unlucky event of ever encountering an ogre, it's best to keep a friendly eye on your female companions, just like you would in a rowdy tavern, because these belligerent Brits don't exactly care for personal boundaries. While following our Northern Valley ogre, we were lucky enough to film a once-in-a-lifetime encounter, a battle of titans. As dangerous and fearless as the ogre is, even it pales compared to the fire-breathing Drek. The only thing missing here is the barbecue sauce. Another one of Vermund's larger inhabitants doesn't quite share the ogre's agility, or the Drek's ability to fly, preferring a more bumbling approach to life. Behold, the Cyclops. Low in urgency and frequently enslaved by goblins simply with the use of food, Cyclops have no real desires beyond not being hungry. However, if enraged, what ogres lack in maneuverability, they make up for in sheer force. Their monolithic slams wreak devastation on anything nearby, and for any foe unlucky enough to be grabbed by its immense hands, it's most certainly game over. As night falls upon Vermund, life takes a darker turn. While critters head for caves and humans settle down for the night, beyond the settlement walls, undead come out to play. Walking bones, enchanting spirits, decaying zombies, and even worse. Under the veil of darkness, these ghouls briefly retake the land they once called home. Some of them still seem to retain fragmented memories of days long past, as even in death.
What will the wife say?
This undead gentleman still fears his wife. Of all of Vermund's residents, none are as elusive as the Sphinx. This particular Sphinx might be an entry-level game designer in her professional life because she tried to send us on a bunch of fetch quests that we unfortunately didn't have time for, so we simply left this majestic being in peace. If the creation myths of Vermund are to be believed, then great deities involved with the formation of Vermund supposedly once told their followers that many other large, special creatures like the Sphinx lay hidden in these lands, but to this day, none have been found. Of all the expeditions that our team has set forth on, this was by far the most difficult. Filming in an environment where both the landscape and inhabitants want to make it your final resting place is not an easy proposition. From unforgiving cliffs to the relentless food chain within, it's remarkable that we were able to capture the footage and still leave Vermund via our own volition. This was made possible thanks to our wonderful guide, David. Many of the shots you've seen simply wouldn't have been possible without David's traversal techniques getting us to the perfect positions, and his skills as a hunter saving us from certain doom was a daily occurrence. Due to these constant threats, both living and environmental, The short documentary took months of filming to achieve, with days spent fleeing, hiding, and battling aggressors for our very lives, all just to catch a few seconds of perfect footage. So for the sake of honesty, and to show the realities of fieldwork in such a harsh ecosystem, here's a behind the scenes look at when things didn't quite go to plan. Thankfully, David's years of experience and training meant that he suffered naught but a few scratches, nothing a night in the tavern couldn't solve. So from myself, David, and the whole crew, thank you for joining us on this adventure, and we hope you've learned a little something about the remarkable bestiary of Vermund.